Zambo, I'm Chunuzuk Selden, and you're watching Bhutan This Week, our top stories from this week. His Majesty grants audience to Desups in Gelefu. His Holiness the Jekembo presides over 9th annual Cherizi Tupchin in Hunsi. One of Druk Air's helicopter crashes in Lunana's Wache village, killing 2. His Majesty the King granted an audience to participants of the 56th Batch Desung Training Program ongoing at Pelrithan in Gelefu on Wednesday.
The 56th Desung Training Program is special as it is a 3.5-month-long program which pilots a component of the training designed for Gelsung when it begins in 2024. The training, held at RBA Wing 9 in Pelrithan, close to one of the Gelsung academies, is also being held around the same time of the year as it will feature at Gelsung. The 500 participants selected for this batch, half men and half women, are youths between the ages of 18 to 21. The training program will have basic military training, national education and life skills development components which will be part of the Gelsung training program common to all 5 Gelsung academies. Isha Gelson, BBS News.
His Holiness the Jekembo is presiding over the 9th annual Cherizi Tupchin at the Namdolung Gyunzin Tatsang of Utso in Hunsi. More than 200 monks from the Tatsang are taking part in the 7-day prayer ceremony that began on Wednesday. It is being held for their Majesty's well-being and the country's welfare. The Tupchin is held annually coinciding with the auspicious first month of the Bhutanese calendar. However, abiding by the notification from the Election Commission of Bhutan, the Tupchin this time is being conducted behind closed doors. The Prime Minister, Dr. Lotus Ring, was in the Qatari capital of Doha to attend the 5th United Nations Conference on the Least Developed Countries this week. The Prime Minister led an 8-member delegation from Bhutan. Speaking at the conference, the Prime Minister said that all least developed countries must put in efforts and not rely on the United Nations altogether. The Prime Minister said graduation from LDC is a reward and not a punishment. On the sidelines of the conference, the Prime Minister also met with the UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres.
Although we still face several last-mile challenges that have been further worsened by natural and man-made disasters, resulting in polycrisis, Bhutan still aspires to graduate from the LDC category. We take this leap of faith with the full knowledge that ours is a fragile graduation. We are a small landlocked economy with limited resources based on few vulnerable sectors like agriculture and hydropower. Our landlocked status will continue to remain a challenge in accessing international markets and participating in global trade. It's extremely satisfying, therefore, to note that one of the 6 key focus area actions for Doha program is enhancing international trade for LDCs.
The opposition party has called on the government to immediately reduce one of the ministers in conformity to the ministries. In a press release issued over the weekend, the Druk Pinsum Tokpa also stated that the lack of clarity is hampering the functioning of some ministries and agencies. They added that the inaction is in contrast to repeated assurances by the government and called for the government's responsibility, accountability and transparency in the conduct of the government affairs.
Lenka chudamle gugu papdalu te lembogi janghadia te machra namlo niktung nishu sanigi inda chunipagi insi changale te lembogi janghadia te gugu hegopi insi chunila.
With a reduction of 10 ministries to 9, the number of ministers should also have been reduced on December 15 last year. However, it has been almost 3 months and a minister has not been removed. This is against the civil service reform and the constitution. Therefore, we are reminding the government to adhere to the mandates of the constitution and immediately carry out the reduction.
The Bhutan Global School-based Student Health Survey shows that 36% of Bhutanese college students were bullied at some point in their lives. While bullying can be of various nature, like cyberbullying, physical abuse, and sexual abuse, the effects of bullying may continue into adulthood. To help schools address bullying, a 2-day virtual orientation for over 500 schools was held last week.
The virtual orientation will help schools institute mechanisms to prevent bullying and offer responsive services to those affected by it. The orientation with 535 schools across the country saw over 1,000 participants, including principals, counselors, and psychosocial focal persons, learned how to implement the guidelines for anti-bullying mechanisms in education institutions. Last year in Thimphu, a study showed 3% of the students were subjected to cyberbullying, another 12% were physically abused, and 4% of the students were sexually abused according to the study.
The rate at which the bullying is prevailing among our youth today is very alarming and very concerning in Mewala. Bullying has vast detrimental impact on children's development. It impacts their self-esteem, it impacts their social skills, the way they perceive their world. So it has become very important that we take action at prevention level rather than at response level in Mawala.
Studies have shown that adults can help prevent bullying by talking to children about bullying, encouraging them to do what they love, modeling kindness and respect, and seeking help.
Until now, most of the mechanisms that we have tried is more on the response expected, what happens after bullying. But in this guideline, we are focusing on how we are going to create and promote self-learning environment, how connectedness is an aspect of developing a school climate, which then later focuses on response. If there are cases reported to school, how can the school focus on responding to that?
The Guidelines for Anti-Bullying Mechanisms in Education Institutions is an initiative of the PEMA Secretariat. The guideline aims to create a safe and harmonious learning environment and to bring about emotionally resilient youth and children in the country. Following the orientation, the schools will come up with their own standard operating procedures, after which a routine evaluation will be carried out. Sringdiki for BBS News.
The 2021 National Education Assessment found that Class 3 students in urban areas have better learning achievement than those in the rural areas. It was also found that students from higher family income performed better in English reading literacy and mathematical literacy. The Bhutan Council for School Examinations and Assessment launched the 2021 National Education Assessment for Grade 3 last Saturday.
Over 4,500 Grade 3 students from 184 schools across the country were assessed in Dzongkha and English reading literacy and mathematical literacy. The assessment found that while higher family income students performed better in maths and English, Dzongkha reading literacy performance was the same irrespective of family income. The assessment also found that girls and boys performed equally.
84% of students has achieved more than level 2 in Dzongkha reading literacy. 90% of the students has achieved more than level 2 in reading literacy, and 93% of students has achieved more than level 2 in mathematical literacy. That is good actually in terms of data when you look at the fact that the administration of NA was conducted during the time of COVID-19 pandemic.
The assessment aims to help strengthen the existing education policies, strategies, and programs for 21st century education.
The data that we have now can really help Ministry of Education and other stakeholders in terms of planning for 35-year plan. And also at the school level, at the Dzongkha level, the data will help the teachers to go for a better pedagogy, and for principal and Dzongkha duos, and also to Dzongdas in the Dzongkha level, to really come up where are the loopholes, where are the gaps, and how can they bridge this gap using this data.
Meanwhile, the NEA will track the same cohort of grade 3 students assessed in 2021 at grade 6 and 9 in a 3-year cycle. Kinzang Hadin, PBS News.
The February 22nd forest fire at Dipsi in Thimphu, which claimed the lives of 4 people and burnt thousands of acres of forest, may have started from sparks from electrical wires. According to Dipsi residents, the transformer located in the residential area has been giving problems for some time. Residents have complained about several problems related to electricity supply and the transformer in particular in the past. However, the investigating teams are still trying to figure out the cause.
The residents BBS talked to say the fire could have been caused by the sparks from the electric wires. They said there was a strong wind that day which could have caused the old electric wires to swing and collide with each other, causing sparks.
12:30 में हम लोग उधर आवाज सुना.
We were working when we heard 3 consecutive blasts. We then rushed out and saw small patches of fire caught up on the dry ground nearby the transformer below our construction site.
उधर से निकाल के देखा है, उधर से आग जल रहा है.
Residents also added that the fire started in 3 small patches at the same time. This is the 3rd time a forest fire started in the same area in Dipsi. The previous 2 fires were caused by electric short circuits.
I didn't really see how the fire started, but when I looked down from my house, I could see a small fire, like a burning garbage pit at the turning above the transformer. The strong wind then spread it to the other areas.
A month ago, a man living in Dipsi reported sparks on an electric pole to the Bhutan Power Corporation or BPC. The BPC then fixed the problem. The Bhutan Electricity Authority or BEA is investigating the transformer and the electric wires in Dipsi to look for any technical faults. An official from the BEA said that once they are done with the investigation, they will know if the fire was caused by electrical sparks or not. The fire rescue team from the Royal Bhutan Police said that the investigation is ongoing and the cause has yet to be known. Namgidem, BBS News.
If you're traveling between Punakha and Thimphu, very soon you might have to give a second thought before dumping wastes along the highway. This is because the Punakha District Administration will be installing CCTV cameras and deploying additional people to monitor illegal waste dumping on the road. If caught, you will be fined. The move comes after the administration and other stakeholders repeatedly conducted cleaning along the highway but didn't see much improvement.
One of the most littered parts of the highway is from Lebisa to Dochula Pass. Travelers usually throw litter from their cars, while some dump their waste below the road in several locations. Moreover, some commuters leave their waste behind after having meals along the road. Employees of the Department of Surface Transport and the Royal Botanical Park in Lamperi, along with local leaders and residents, have been jointly taking care of wastes along the road so far. Since the initiative could not succeed, the district administration is now planning to do away with the cleaning activities along the road. It will instead enhance the monitoring system. Meanwhile, the administration already fined over 25 individuals in Kurutha for dumping waste illegally.
We are planning to install the CCTV cameras within this month. Since most of the people travel through this highway while going to Thimphu, we would like to request all commuters to cooperate with us as we are imposing fines strictly.
Every 9th of month we clean.
We conduct cleaning works along the route on 9th of every month, but travelers litter the wastes equally. For instance, if we do cleaning today, we see the same amount of wastes thrown on the highway the next day. So I feel we can maintain our environment clean only if every individual takes the responsibility.
Most of the wastes are thrown at the parking places along the road. People just leave their waste there after having meals. They leave behind the food wrappers and covers. They just throw the waste directly from their car windows.
People are throwing cans and beer bottles. They also throw empty rugby bottles along the road. I think it would be convenient for us if dustbins could be placed in certain places along the road and inform the travelers to use it properly.
The waste issue is prevalent not only along the highway but also in recreational sites and picnic spots in Punakha. As the district is a popular pilgrimage and tourist destination, local visitors and tourists visit it regularly. Zomlingtha is one site that mostly remains busy. It will also soon come under CCTV surveillance to address the issues. Additional manpower has already been deployed to monitor the waste in the area.
Picnic spots in Punakha, like the ones in Lampiri here and Zomlingtha, also have waste management issues. People come for picnics and camping, leaving behind piles of waste. The Dzongkhag administration has given the responsibility of waste management of these sites to its respective management and to the people in the locality.
According to the waste prevention and management regulations, the fine for littering at any public places is 250 ngitam, while dumping of waste in the environment is 3,000 ngitam. Through the initiative, officials hope to make the district waste-free. For Chiangadoji in Punakha, this is Kipchu for BVS News.
A Druk Air helicopter has crashed at Wache in Lunana, killing a woman and her daughter last Friday. According to Druk Air, there were 4 passengers and a pilot on board who were on their way from Kurutha in Punakha to Lunana. The accident took place at around 2:30 p.m. The other 3 have been evacuated by local residents and are in stable condition. Druk Air issued a press release stating that the cause of the crash is not known yet and the case is under investigation. The 3 survivors of the helicopter crash at Wache in Lunana have been evacuated to the Jimidoji Wanchu National Referral Hospital in Thimphu a day after the incident. According to a news release from Druk Air, 4 Indian Air Force helicopters were used for the evacuation mission. The Druk Air says the evacuation mission was successful due to favorable weather conditions compared to the day of the incident. The news release also stated that the Druk Air has offered a token amount to meet the immediate requirements to the family of deceased in Wache. The Druk Air's second helicopter could not be used for evacuation mission as it has been grounded for scheduled maintenance since the end of February, according to the news release. The 3 passengers from the Lunana helicopter crash have been discharged from the hospital. According to Druk Air, while the father and the daughter were discharged on Monday, the pilot was also discharged the following day. The company also stated that the preliminary investigation had started on Saturday and that an accident report will be made available after the investigation is complete. The influx of international students in Australia is resulting in an accommodation crisis in the country, and it's the same for Bhutanese students and their families who are also struggling to find a home. They say the problem is only growing with the increasing numbers, adding to the competition and even resulting in rising house rents.
This is a typical scene nowadays of a Bhutanese home in Australia. Since one requires a stable job to get a house on rent, newcomers normally seek shelter at a friend or relative's home. But finding a house in Australia has become harder than ever, and as a result, Bhutanese homes in Australia are getting cramped, accommodating other families.
When I got here, I stayed with one of my schoolmates for about a month. Then his relatives came here, and I slept in his living room. After the house became full of his relatives coming here, I couldn't accommodate there. So I moved to another friend's house. There, I stayed in his kitchen for 10 days. Again, his cousins got here and the house became crowded. Now, I am sharing a house with an Indian guy, and it's been exactly a month.
As the number of Bhutanese coming to study here is increasing every day, and also due to the reopening of China's border, Chinese students are coming in as well. For just one apartment, about 60 to 70 people gathered to check it, so it is very difficult to get a house. It has been about 4 months since I got here, but I am still living with a relative. From my observation, I have seen a minimum people of 8 and 9 living together.
Situations have become so dire that they say some are even spending nights in cars. According to the Association of Bhutanese in Perth, even if you find an empty house, the rents have become quite high.
For my experience, the rentals in Perth has increased by at least $150 to $200 a week when comparing to pre-COVID period. The Bhutanese are not able to find houses because as soon as they reach here, they need a job to find a house. And there's a lot of demand for the houses because there are a lot of migrants moving to Perth.
A local media reported that rents in Perth hit a record high in February and that 20,000 housing units were needed to ease the crisis. The situation is the same in some of other Australian cities as well. PBS talked to a few Bhutanese students in Canberra, Melbourne and Brisbane who shared the same stories. According to media reports, China's reopening has resulted in the accommodation crisis for international students. The Royal Bhutanese Embassy in Australia also issued a notification today on the housing shortage and stated the return of international students and increasing migration to Australia after the COVID pandemic was one of the main reasons. The embassy also advised Bhutanese students to make housing arrangements before travelling. Kinsang Hadan, PBS News.
Sencho Gelson's Round Glass Punjab FC team is now the champion of the current edition of the Hero I League. The championship was confirmed after a resounding 4-0 win against Rajasthan FC on Saturday. Sencho's performance in the match bagged him the Player of the Match award. The championship win also confirms Round Glass Punjab's promotion to the Indian Super League. In a recent interview with the BBS, Sencho said he has yet to decide on whether to continue with the team from Punjab or try his trade elsewhere. Sencho stated his desire to play in Europe, but says talks are ongoing and nothing is confirmed as yet. And that is all we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us. Take care and goodbye.